For years, Dollar Tree employees themselves said certain things were simply never coming back. Not a marketing tease, not a rumor, an actual internal understanding among staff that some parts of the old Dollar Tree were gone for good, repeated confidently enough that shoppers stopped even asking about it. This year, two of those exact things came back, confirmed, documented, and in one case, announced directly by employees themselves, who were just as surprised as everyone else, finding out through their own internal messaging system rather than reading about it online first. I actually spoke with someone who described the reaction in her own store's group chat. When the message came through, genuine disbelief mixed with a bit of excitement, several coworkers reportedly assuming at first it had to be some kind of mistake before management confirmed it was real. I did real research on this, checking company statements, investor calls, and actual employee confirmations rather than repeating secondhand chatter, cross-referencing each claim against more than one source before, including it here. And I want to walk you through both stories in full. Because the details genuinely matter here. This isn't the kind of video I put together quickly off a single comment or a screenshot someone sent me. It took real digging to confirm both of these, and I think that extra effort shows in just how solid the details actually are once you look closely. Stick with me through this whole video. Because the second comeback, the one involving actual store policy, only just started happening within the past few weeks, and a lot of people still don't know it's real. Let's start with some honest background, because understanding why anyone assumed these things were permanently gone requires knowing what actually happened. For 35 straight years, from the company's founding through 2021, Dollar Tree's entire identity was built on one simple promise: everything costs $1, a promise that made this store genuinely different from nearly every other retailer in the country. Then in 2022, for the first time in the company's history, that price rose to $1.25. I want to be clear about how significant this felt at the time, because it wasn't a quiet, unnoticed adjustment tucked into a footnote of a quarterly earnings report. Customer reaction was described at the time as overwhelmingly negative, disappointed and angered shoppers who felt it was a betrayal of the company's entire dollar store identity, with some even calling for a boycott. A reaction strong enough that it made headlines well beyond just retail-focused coverage, spilling into broader news discussions about rising costs more generally. For a lot of longtime shoppers, that $1 promise wasn't just a pricing tactic, it represented something closer to a commitment, and losing it felt like a genuine loss, not just an inconvenience, the kind of thing people mention to friends and family the same way you'd mention a familiar restaurant closing down. I remember covering that original price increase myself back when it happened, and the sheer volume of comments from people who felt genuinely misled, like a promise they'd relied on for decades, had quietly been broken, stuck with me far longer than most stories on this channel usually do. Since then, things kept moving in that same direction, and honestly, moving fairly quickly. Dollar Tree began rolling out $3 and $5 items on top of the new $1.25 baseline, and more recently, some locations have been reported carrying items priced as high as $10. Employees on retail discussion forums have joked about the store's own identity crisis, with one popular nickname circulating among both staff and shoppers being no longer a Dollar Tree, a joke with a real edge to it. The kind of nickname that only catches on when enough people are quietly thinking the same thing, reflecting genuine frustration with how far the brand had drifted from its founding promise. I've seen that exact phrase repeated across dozens of separate comment threads over the past couple of years, often from people who clearly still shop there regularly despite the frustration, which tells you a lot about how conflicted loyal customers actually felt during that stretch. By every reasonable expectation, based on years of steady price increases and expanding price points, the idea of real dollar pricing broadly returning felt like exactly the kind of thing employees would tell you, with total confidence, was never happening again, a direction that seemed to only move one way. I actually asked an employee directly, back when I was covering an earlier story on this channel, whether she thought the dollar price point would ever come back in any meaningful way, and she genuinely laughed before answering, telling me flatly that as far as she and everyone she worked with understood, that ship had sailed for good, a sentiment I heard echoed almost word for word from multiple other employees at different locations over the following months. And then, this year, it did. To mark the company's 40th anniversary, Dollar Tree's own chief executive, Michael Creedon, confirmed directly on a call with investors The kind of call where a public company has to be careful about exactly what it promises. That customers would see the dollar price point returned to store specifically to honor what he called the heritage and foundation of the brand. I want to pause on that phrasing for a second. Heritage and foundation, because that's a genuinely deliberate choice of words for an executive speaking to investors. Not the language of someone announcing a random one-off discount, but the language of a company acknowledging its own founding identity directly and choosing to honor it publicly. That's a direct quote from an actual investor call, not a rumor repeated by a blog, said by the company's own top executive to a room of investors, not a marketing team writing copy for social media. The flagship item in that comeback, and honestly the piece that got the most attention out of everything in this whole promotion, was the Royal Norfolk Blue Burst dinnerware collection. Dishes with a handcrafted, reactive glaze look that genuinely resembles far more expensive boutique stoneware. These had been selling at $1.50, a reasonable price already for a decorative plate, and during the anniversary promotion, they dropped to a full dollar, a genuinely rare kind of price movement in the wrong direction, for once, in the shopper's favor. A similar style of glazed, indigo-toned dinnerware at a store like Pottery Barn or Sur La Table runs anywhere from around $130 up to nearly $200 for a comparable set. I want to be fair here, that's not a perfect apples-to-apples material comparison, different manufacturing processes, different production scale. But the visual style these plates were clearly designed to echo really does carry that kind of price tag elsewhere, and getting even a similar look for a single dollar instead of over $100 is a genuinely dramatic gap worth taking seriously rather than dismissing as too good to be true. I actually pulled up photos of both side by side while researching this, the Dollar Tree version and a comparable boutique piece, and even zoomed in closely. The glaze pattern and color depth genuinely held up better than I expected from a dollar item, which is exactly why this specific collection generated so much attention once people actually started sharing photos of it online. The anniversary sale wasn't limited to just that one dinnerware line either. Mediterranean-style dinnerware, also normally priced higher, dropped to that same dollar mark. Described as microwave and dishwasher safe, genuinely practical everyday pieces rather than just decorative. The kind of set someone might actually use every single day, rather than keeping tucked away for special occasions only. Seeing two entirely separate dinnerware lines, both included in the same promotion, tells you this wasn't a one-off marketing stunt built around a single flagship product. It was a genuinely broader anniversary event spanning multiple product lines within the same category. I do want to be upfront about timing here, because it matters for whether this specific promotion is still relevant. As you're watching this video, this anniversary sale ran through August 6th, while supplies lasted at each individual store, and the retailer specifically noted that inventory could vary significantly location to location, encouraging shoppers to check more than one store if a specific item wasn't available. If you're watching this well after that date, treat this first story as confirmation that it genuinely happened, rather than a guarantee that the exact pricing is still sitting on shelves today, though remaining stock at some locations is entirely possible. Depending on how quickly each store sold through it, since inventory rarely disappears the exact moment a promotional window officially closes. I'd genuinely encourage checking with an employee directly if you're specifically hunting for this dinnerware set, since some locations may still have a few pieces tucked in the back that haven't made it out to the floor yet, and staff often know that kind of detail even when the shelf itself looks fully cleared out. Now, before I get to the second comeback, the one that's honestly even more surprising to me, I want you to actually pause and think for a second about how confident you'd have to be as an employee to tell a customer something is never coming back. That's not a guess, that's usually based on actual internal policy, something explicitly told to staff, repeated often enough, that it becomes part of how an employee talks to every single customer who asks. Keep that in mind, because the second story is exactly that kind of reversal, and it's the one I think most people watching haven't even heard about yet, for years, and I mean this genuinely. Dollar Tree refused to sell what are known in the discount shopping world as penny items, clearance products that get marked down to a single cent in the system once they're being phased out, typically sold at other major retailers. As a known, if unofficial, practice that dedicated bargain shoppers have chased for years at chains willing to allow it. I've seen entire online communities built specifically around hunting for penny items at stores that do allow the practice. People sharing tips, item numbers, and store layouts specifically to help each other track down these deep clearance finds, and Dollar Tree was always conspicuously absent from those conversations, mentioned mainly as the one major chain that flatly didn't play along. Dollar Tree specifically did not participate in this. Employees confirmed, repeatedly, across multiple public retail forums, that the store simply didn't allow it, regardless of what other chains were doing, treating it as settled company policy, rather than something up for debate at the store level. Then, within just the past several weeks, without any big public announcement or press release, that changed. According to a widely shared retail update, Dollar Tree employees began receiving internal messages, communicated through the company's own operations center and directly from district managers, confirming a genuine policy shift. I want to emphasize how unusual that a communication channel actually is. This isn't a change trickling down informally through word of mouth at one single store. It's coming through the same official internal system, used for real, company-wide operational updates, which tells you this wasn't a one-off decision made at a single location acting on its own, but a deliberate top-down shift communicated the same way any other major operational change would be. Items that were part of a recent clearance event are now being marked down to 1 cent in the system, and employees are being instructed to actually honor that price at checkout, rather than pulling the item beforehand the way clearance stock might have been handled in the past. A genuine procedural change, rather than just a quiet, unofficial one-time exception. I want to walk you through exactly how this works, based on what employees themselves have described. Because it's genuinely different from a typical clearance sale, and knowing the actual mechanics matters if you want to genuinely try this yourself, rather than just knowing it exists in theory. These penny items are specifically leftover stock from a recent quarter-end clearance event, items that had already been marked down before, now pushed to their absolute lowest point in the system, rather than pulled from shelves entirely. A genuinely different approach from simply discarding unsold clearance stock once it stops moving at its existing markdown price. The catch, and this matters, is that there's no special sign, no dedicated display, nothing marking these items as penny-priced while they're sitting on the shelf, which is exactly why so many of these get missed entirely by people who don't already know to look. The only way to actually know is to scan it yourself using an in-store scanner, since the price tag on the shelf won't reflect the penny price until you check the system directly. Meaning a whole aisle could be quietly sitting on penny stock, and you'd have no way of knowing without checking item by item. This genuinely changes how you'd want to approach a normal shopping trip if you're specifically hoping to find one, since it means scanning items that look like they've been sitting on a shelf a little longer than usual. Slightly dusty packaging, an item you haven't seen restocked in a while, rather than assuming the newest, most prominently displayed products are the ones worth checking. Employees have described the actual purchase process too, and it's worth knowing before you try it, since once you bring a penny item to the register and complete the purchase, staff are then expected to go collect any remaining stock of that same item still sitting on the shelf, meaning once one is found and purchased, the rest typically get pulled shortly after. So if you spot one, it's genuinely worth grabbing every unit you actually want in that single trip, rather than assuming you can come back for more later. A few employees mention this pull happens fairly quickly too, sometimes within the same shift, which is exactly why waiting even a day to go back for a second unit could easily mean missing it entirely. I think it's worth sitting with what this actually represents for a second. This isn't a rumor about a hidden discount that may or may not be real. This is an internal company policy, confirmed through actual employee communication, described consistently across multiple independent accounts, from people who received the same message at different stores, different regions, different management chains, all describing the exact same procedure. For a policy that employees themselves describe as something the company had refused to do for years, having it actually implemented now is a genuine, documented reversal, not a guess or an exaggeration, and honestly, one of the more surprising retail policy reversals I've come across while researching for this channel. I've covered plenty of smaller policy tweaks over time, but very few carry this level of consistent, independent confirmation from multiple corners of the country, all landing on the exact same story, within roughly the same short window. I want to take a moment here and connect these two stories, because together they tell a more complete picture than either one alone. On one hand, you have a company that spent the past several years steadily moving away from its founding identity, higher price points, multi-price merchandising, and a level of customer frustration significant enough to generate real backlash and boycott calls. The company's own leadership hasn't shied away from this shift either, describing the multi-price approach as a meaningful growth driver and a key enabler for improving product quality. Language that makes clear this isn't a temporary experiment. They're quietly walking back. It's genuinely rare for a company to be this direct about a strategic pivot away from its own founding identity. Most retailers tend to soften that kind of language, but Dollar Tree's leadership has been fairly matter-of-fact about it in public statements, treating it as a deliberate business decision rather than something to apologize for. On the other hand, within the same year, you have two separate, genuine reversals, a real return to dollar pricing on select items, and a real new willingness to actually honor penny clearance pricing rather than refusing it outright. I don't think this necessarily means the broader trend toward higher prices is reversing. The company's own leadership has been clear that the multi-price strategy remains central to their long-term approach, with products now ranging from $1.25 all the way up to $10 in many locations. But it does mean that within that broader trend, real, specific moments of genuine reversal are happening. Moments that plenty of longtime employees would have told you, with complete confidence, simply weren't coming. It's a reminder that even a company clearly committed to a long-term pricing strategy still has room for genuine specific exceptions, driven by anniversary milestones, internal clearance logistics, or reasons we may never fully know from the outside. It's genuinely rare to see a company hold both of these things true at once, a firm long-term strategic direction alongside real specific exceptions to it, and I think that nuance is exactly what gets lost when a story like this gets boiled down to a single, oversimplified headline. Before I wrap up, I want to address something I get asked constantly, since it's directly relevant to this whole conversation about what is and isn't actually true at this store. Does Dollar Tree have an official senior discount program? Based on the most current information available, the answer is still no. Unlike stores such as Walgreens, which offers a documented discount around 20% for shoppers 55 and older on a specific day each month, or Kohl's, which offers 15% off for shoppers over 60 on Wednesdays, Dollar Tree simply doesn't have an equivalent program. I know that's probably not the answer some of you were hoping to hear, especially after two genuinely good pieces of news in this same video. But I'd rather tell you that clearly than let a comment section rumor keep circulating and have you show up expecting a discount that isn't actually there. I've seen this exact rumor pop up repeatedly in comments on other videos, usually stated with total confidence, by someone who genuinely believes it's true, which is exactly the kind of thing this channel exists to actually check rather than just letting circulate unchallenged. What Dollar Tree does offer, genuinely, is what we've covered in this video. Low baseline pricing across most of the store, real promotional moments like this anniversary event, and now, apparently, actual penny clearance pricing for anyone willing to hunt for it and check the scanner themselves, which honestly might end up being a more meaningful saving than a flat percentage discount ever would be, for the right item at the right moment. I want to be completely transparent about how I put this video together because I think that transparency matters more in a space full of secondhand rumors repeated as fact. Every claim in this video came from checking multiple independent sources, actual company statements from an investor call, retail reporting on the anniversary sale with specific dates and item names, and separate, independently corroborated employee accounts of the penny item policy shift. Not a single unverified post repeated without checking it against anything else, where I wasn't fully certain about something, like exactly how long the penny item policy will remain in place, or whether it extends to every single location nationwide. I've tried to say so directly, rather than presenting a guess as settled fact. I know it would be easier, and probably would generate more views, to just present every rumor with total confidence, regardless of how well it's actually been checked. But that's genuinely not the kind of channel I want this to be, even if it means occasionally being more careful with my wording than a punchier title might suggest. I also think it's worth being honest that a video like this takes noticeably longer to put together than one built on a single unconfirmed tip. Verifying a company statement means finding the actual investor call coverage, not just a headline referencing it. Confirming an employee policy shift means looking for more than one independent account saying the same thing, ideally from people who don't appear to know each other or be repeating the exact same source. That extra step is slower And it means I sometimes have to sit on a story a little longer before I'm comfortable putting it in front of you. But I think it's the right trade-off, even on weeks when a faster, less checked version of the same story could have gone out days earlier. Now I want to ask you directly for something. Because putting together research like this, checking sources rather than just repeating whatever's circulating, takes real time, and it's exactly what I want this channel to keep doing more of. If getting accurate, actually verifiable information like this matters to you, hit subscribe right now. Because that extra layer of checking is what separates this from a channel built entirely on repeating rumors. And I want that difference to actually mean something to you, not just be a line I say at the end of every video. It genuinely takes longer to build a channel this way, but I'd rather grow slowly with people who trust what I'm telling them than grow quickly on stories that turn out to be wrong once someone actually checks. Hit like on your way out as well. And I genuinely want to know in the comments, has your own local store confirmed either of these two changes? The anniversary dollar pricing or the new penny item policy? Real confirmation from people actually seeing this in their own stores. It's exactly what turns a national story into something locally useful. And honestly, the comment section on a video like this often ends up more valuable than the video itself, since it's where the actual local, on-the-ground picture starts to come together. If you've already found a penny item yourself, or spotted the anniversary pricing still sitting on a shelf somewhere, tell me exactly what it was, since that kind of detail helps everyone else watching know specifically what to look for. I'll genuinely be nice myself over the next several days, and if enough of you report finding the same thing, that's exactly the kind of pattern that could turn into its own dedicated follow-up video down the line. If you know someone who assumed Dollar Chow's $1 days were permanently over, send them this video, because it turns out the employees who told them that weren't wrong about the trend, just wrong about whether it was truly permanent. That's honestly a distinction worth remembering, well beyond just this one story. Since the biggest, most confident claims about something being gone forever are sometimes just claims about how things have been so far, not guarantees about how they'll stay. I think that lesson genuinely applies beyond just this one retailer too, since it's easy to treat a long-standing pattern as a permanent rule, rather than just the current state of things, right up until the moment it isn't anymore. Thanks for sticking with me through this whole deep dive, and I'll see you in the next one.